Good morning or afternoon. Happy Monday. Today we're going to have a very simple lesson. We're going to look at a grammar point in the book which I think is incredibly easy. So a nice segue into a 4-lesson week where the lessons are going to get, I think, a little easier. We'll see. Okay, so what we're going to look at today is technical terms. Now it's in the book, it's described out, and when you're writing explanations, it's kind of an important element. So I want us to understand what a technical term is, how it's used, why it's used, and how we can avoid looking like we don't know what we're talking about. Now, technical terms are terms used within a set group of people that need some kind of extra explanation. Now, the reason we use technical terms is because they're the correct terms and they are known among people who professionally do a thing. For instance, let's talk about motorcycles because I don't know if you know this, but I am a huge fan of motorcycles.
No shit.
So, if you wanted to get your motorcycle serviced, you need to change the oil, you need to change the brake pads, you need to look at the spark plugs. Now, if I said to you, have you changed your spark plugs? What condition are they in? What color are they? Most people would look at me as if I was speaking French. In other words, like I smelled really bad and needed beating with a big stick. Now, the spark plugs are an important part of a motorcycle, but they are a technical term. They're a technical term because most people don't know what they mean. Now, if I put in into a guide of how to service your motorcycle, things like you need to check your spark plug, check the color, check the gap, and make sure it's all correct. There'd be no point me talking about that because most people who are looking up a piece of paper, a document about how to service a motorcycle, wouldn't know what the hell I'm talking about. If we're talking about servicing a motorcycle, most people who are looking that up are complete noobs. They're completely unaware of any of the details about servicing. So the chances that they would know what a spark plug is and what it does are extremely small. So we need to go right down to basics and we need to explain all of the technical terms out so that our target audience knows exactly what it is we're talking about. Now, in terms of a spark plug, we need to break it down for people. We need to explain what it does in very, very simple terms so that we avoid using jargon, so that we avoid using terms that no one else is going to get. We need to explain exactly what it is, what it does, how it works, and why it's important. We need to get through to our audience just exactly what it is we're talking about. So we need to be aware when we're writing any kind of document what the technical terms are. Now, we need to do our own research so that we understand them and we can use them correctly, but we also need to make sure that they're fully explained so that our audience has no doubts. Simple as that. So take another one from a motorcycle. We take the big end. Now, that's a common thing to break on a large motorcycle, the big end. And we talk about this all the time. And most people haven't got a clue what the big end is. But it's literally, there's two ends of a motorcycle engine, the small end at the top and the big end at the bottom. The big end is the big part of the engine down the bottom where all the pressure is built up. That's where the piston comes down and turns around the crankshaft and makes the back wheel go around. But we call it the big end and most people have no idea what that is. But it's the most common thing to break on a very large engine because it's where, it's where all the pressure is, it's where everything is dealt with. So we need to explain that to the audience. The big end is this, it's important because of that, and this is how it's relevant to you. Now we need to explain all those technical things. Now I'm sure you've all been to a website that doesn't bother to explain them. That it talks in jargon, and I'm sure you all know people that do this as well, especially some teachers, I would hazard a guess, who like to talk in jargon because jargon sometimes makes people feel clever. If I can say to you in terms of motorcycling, I hope you've all, I don't know, I don't think of something really complicated. I hope you've all had your ECUs flashed. Most of you are going to think, the hell is he talking about? And quite rightly so. But it makes me feel clever because I know something that you don't know. A lot of people do that. A lot of people like to stick to jargon because it's very elitist. And we see this a lot in business English, political stages where people are talking nonsense. And often we'll see these speeches on TV and we have to go and look it up because they're talking absolute nonsense. Now, most jargon is used that way to keep other people out. And that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to be a phrase that's specific to a point, so we know exactly what it is that we're talking about. But it needs proper explanation, and it should never be used outside of the profession or the immediate group of people who fully understand it. Doing so is counterproductive, it's elitist, and it's nonsense. The people that do it are often people that you wouldn't respect, because they're trying to be something they're not, and they're trying to make you into something you're not. You know you're an amateur at certain things. You know that most of you are never gonna strip down a motorcycle. So knowing what the big end is and how it works is completely irrelevant to you. If your big end goes, your engine stops running, you take it to a mechanic and give them most of your money. Simple as that. For most of us, it's enough. It's enough to know that someone else can do the job. Those kind of people, they talk in jargon, they're not helping anybody, especially themselves. They're making themselves look like they don't understand it. Albert Einstein said, the people who can understand something the best are the people that can explain it the simplest. Because if you can't explain something in a simple way, then really you haven't understood it properly. Whether it's English grammar, which I struggle with sometimes, to explain it very simply, or mathematics, or engine design, or whatever, we need to get it down to the very simplest way if we're going to be professional. Now, Germans are terrible at this. I used to be very into firearms. When I was growing up, I did a lot of shooting. And Walthers have this great reputation, and they used to deserve it. They used to be very simple. But as they became more German, they became very, very complicated, and they just stopped working. Same with BMW motorcycles and cars. They overcomplicate, and in the end, it just becomes a pile of crap that doesn't really work properly. German cars now have a reputation for breaking down a lot because everything is overcomplicated, everything's over-engineered and under-manufactured. And it's the same thing with technical jargon. If we overuse and overcomplicate things, we're not making it better, we're making it more difficult, and we're making sure that there are going to be problems. So technical explanations and technical words need to be taken out, or they need to be explained. So you've got a choice depending on your target audience. Can you use a simpler term? Can you use a simpler phrase? Is there a better way to describe something? And if there isn't, if you do need to be specific, is there a need for an explanation? Do the ordinary people understand what it is you're talking about? Okay, so that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at technical phrases. Now, I've given you a worksheet, so go to Google Classroom and look it up. And all I want you to do is find your subject, and it depends on the letter of the alphabet that your name starts with. So start with your personal name, look it up, and there's 26 different subjects. Look it up, and then I want you to find 5 technical terms and describe them in simple terms in the question on Google Classroom. That's all you need to do today. So you need to find your letter of the alphabet, look it up on the sheet on Google Classroom, look up your letter, look up the subject you have to look up, and then find 5 technical terms and then explain them in simple terms. And that's it. That's all you have to do today.